my name is Anna, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to talk to you about my recent year-long no-buy that I just finished. Now to give you some context, my no-buy was started on July 1st of 2019 and it ended on June 30th of 2020. Now it was a replacement only makeup no-buy, meaning that the only makeup I can buy is if I run out of an item and I have nothing else to use. I started this because going into college, I knew that I would want to be on a stricter budget and I wouldn't be able to just rely on my parents' money. So I wanted to get used to stopping myself from just buying anything I wanted or buying on a whim, because makeup is one of my many passions and I can tend to be tunnel visioned and not think about just everything in general. So sometimes I might be shopping and I would be like, "Ooh, pretty," and I'd just buy it without thinking. After an occurrence in May of 2019 where I kind of bought a little bit too much on a whim and I was like, why did I do that? I kind of took a step back and thought about what I wanted to do for my future, because I want to be wise with my money, and since I am now an adult, I feel like that's even more important, and to start on the right foot can definitely change things a lot. I don't want to spend a ton now and then regret it later in life, so I thought, let's start well. Let's start smart. So I started a no-buy, and I did it successfully. I didn't buy anything unnecessary, at least in my opinion. I can talk about the numbers and specific things that I bought later. However, I wanted to make this video just to share my experience and thoughts on doing a makeup no-buy as a makeup lover myself and someone who really does like buying new makeup. If you are unfamiliar with the size of my collection or my channel, I have a fairly small makeup collection for someone who does YouTube especially, but just someone who likes makeup. And I want to keep it that way because I tend to get overwhelmed easily by a lot of things, but I don't want to have too much stuff because I find clutter and just a big quantity of items overwhelming and difficult to handle. I wouldn't consider myself a minimalist. I do want to be as minimal as possible for the areas in my makeup collection that I don't find myself needing a bunch of color or formula variation, such as bronzers. Not really in love with bronzers. I would like to have 1, 2 max, but it's not something like blushes where I like to have a variety of colors and undertones or finishes. And I kept that in mind when I started my no-buy, because I knew that I live at 2 houses currently. However, going into college, I didn't want to live in 2 places. I have my mom's house and my dad's house. I basically had 2 makeup collections, and I wanted to change that so that I would have 1 makeup collection that has everything that I want and that I am content with, but isn't too duplicative. Is that even a word? Anyways, now that you have a bit of background, let's get into the numbers, because I actually find this really interesting. So over the past 12 months, I bought 9 makeup items. So considering I was allowed to replace things, I don't find that as a fail, because I only bought concealer, mascara, and primers. Now in total, I bought 4 mascaras, which cost $33.98, and I feel like that's a decent price for 4 mascaras. I also bought 4 concealers, which cost $37.17, and this is where the majority of my money went. The highest money I spent was on concealer, which I think if I were to choose 1 makeup item that I could use for the rest of my life and I couldn't use any other thing, it would be concealer, because I got dark circles. It's genetic. Also, I probably need to sleep more, but we'll ignore that. And the 1 primer I bought was the e.l.f. Glow Lotion, and I got it on sale at Burlington for $3.99 because I ran out of glowy primers at one of my houses. Again, that was when I still had doubles, but I've since gotten rid of a bunch of doubles of primers. So in total I bought 9 items, which cost $64.15, which I feel like is pretty good for a year of makeup. Spending under $100 is a big thing, and it makes sense since I was only buying essentials for me. Now, I also received some makeup items. I received 9 makeup items in total. I will not go through each of them specifically. So in total, I had 18 items brought into my collection in this past year of not buying anything non-essential. Gifted includes, I got a palette for Christmas, a palette for my birthday, a few things that my mom decluttered to me because she no longer used, and I don't want them to be put to waste. So yeah, those are the majority of the gifted category. Now, I used up a total of 33 makeup items in this past year. I'm not going to go over each specific makeup items, but I will go over the categories of what I used up. So I used up 5 primers, which were a total of $32.95, 7 concealers, which cost $57.04, which I believe is the highest amount of money I used up. As you can tell, I like concealer. I used up 1 face powder, which was $4.99, 1 bronzer, which was $4.99, 2 setting sprays, which totaled to $17.11, 11 lip products, which include 7 minis, which could have been sample sizes or like mini tube, and 4 full-size lip products, and that cost a total of $23.97. The reason that number is so low is because I had a lot of really like free minis or cheap like tiny ones that I got, so even though I used up a lot of things, a lot of them are small and they didn't cost that much. Either way, I got rid of a lot. And I also used up 6 mascaras, one of them being a mini size, and they totaled $45.37, which means I used up a total of $182.42 in makeup. And the reason that's so low is because I pretty much only buy drugstore makeup, with a few exceptions in the past, but I try to keep my spending as low as possible, meaning I don't spend a ton on really expensive items because I just don't think it's worth it. For something that expires, I don't want to spend a ton of money if I know I can't keep it for a very long time in terms of like lifespan. Keeping makeup over 5 years, even if it's a powder, you can't really do that super easily, so that's why I don't like to buy expensive makeup. Also, I'm a cheap person. So along with the 33 items that I used up and brought out of my collection, I also decluttered 11 items. And 2 of those were lost, so I didn't try to declutter them. It's just one of them fell out my backpack and one of them got lost in an airport. So that means I took out of my collection 44 items. So I brought in 18, I brought out 44, means the difference would be 26 items. Like compared to, so I had a deficit of 26 items, which I feel like is pretty significant when you're trying to make your collection smaller. And if you're curious about the difference between how much I bought versus how much I spent, the difference is negative $118.27, which means I definitely used up a lot more than I bought, which was the goal. One thing to add is that 16 out of 33 of the items that I used up were not cruelty-free. So really glad to get those out of my collection. I'm still trying to get to my makeup collection and the majority of my beauty items to be 100% cruelty-free. However, that process has been a lot longer than intended, even though I have been in this process for 2, maybe 3 years now. The reason it has taken so long is due to the fact that Wet n Wild and Physicians Formula both changed their cruelty-free status when they started selling in China. First off, they lied about it, so like that's another issue. But anyways, since I had several products from them, in some cases the majority of my products were Wet n Wild and Physicians Formula, so the transition has been a little bit more difficult. And even with decluttering, I still don't want to declutter things immediately. I'd rather just use them up. I don't want to be wasteful. So yeah, one day, hopefully, I will be 100% cruelty-free. However, I don't think that'll be any day soon. Now that we've talked about the numbers, I would like to give you some of my thoughts on doing a no-buy, in this case for a year, and just what I've learned and what advice I would give you if you are thinking about doing a no-buy yourself. Now, my first point is it's not as hard as you think it is. It does get a lot easier over time. Once you get used to the process of not buying, it just becomes a habit where you see something, you're like, oh, that's really cool. I'll put that on my wish list, and I won't buy that right now, and I'll see how I feel. My second point is that you are more fickle than you think. And I'm also saying this for myself. You might be initially attracted to an item. However, if you step back and wait, compare it to what you have, compare it to other items, you might not feel as strongly about that makeup item as you initially were. So while the initial attraction would be like, oh, pretty, I want it, after a month or 2 or 3, you might not want it at all. In my case, I sometimes were like, oh, I so want this, I'm not going to change my mind, and then all of a sudden, like, sometimes it was the next day, like, I would be late night looking through a bunch of eyeshadow palettes, and the next day I look and I was like, what was I thinking? I don't want this. Like, that's how fickle I can be. So, well, I don't know how fickle you are compared to me. I thought it was definitely interesting to see how easily my wish list, mentally and physically, because I did keep a wish list, changed over time, and just how easily I could be swayed if I found a different item and I was like, oh, this is actually a little bit more what I wanted. Well, you might be attracted to something, you might be attracted to what you want it to be. And maybe later there will be an item that is closer to what you want compared to the original one, if that makes sense. My third point is some things you don't need as much as you think. When I use things up, while I can replace things, in the case of setting spray, once I used mine up, I chose not to buy a new one because I wanted to see if it was something I actually did need in my makeup routine. And once I stopped using it, I didn't miss it, and I found that my makeup didn't look any better or worse. So I realized I don't actually need this. Wow, that saves money. So I would suggest giving yourself time without some items, even if you use it up and you want to buy a replacement. Maybe just wait and see, do you actually need this, or is it just something that you think is a part of your step-by-step process? For instance, primer. Once I use up my primer, I'm going to give myself some time without it to see if I actually do need primer in my makeup application process. Now, my last point is no buys are worth it no matter what your incentive is. Because let's be honest, it's going to save you money regardless of what your motive is. If you use things up and you're not buying things, it definitely saves you storage space, which can be really helpful if you don't have especially large storage. It also gives a positive impact onto the environment. If you don't buy a ton of things that have plastic specifically, then that's less plastic that'll just go into the landfill because you bought it, you used it up, and then eventually you'll have to throw it away or something, and then it'll just rot. So it being less of a consumer, it will always have a more positive impact on the environment. And lastly, I would say it's good for your mental health, just taking a step back and not focusing on buying so much. It really puts things into perspective on just what is needed in your life and what are truly necessities and what you should be focusing on. Especially if you find yourself addicted to shopping or shopping because you are anxious or stressed. Using shopping as a coping mechanism isn't the most healthy thing, so making it so that you can't do that can really be good for your mental healing process. So those are just some of my thoughts after being on a year-long no-buy. You can take these with a grain of salt because this is just my experience and my opinion. I'm not stating things as fact over here. Dude, I'm just 18. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Anyways, I hope that you thought my thoughts were interesting, at least thought-provoking if anything. But I will leave you with 4 last advice tips if you are in the middle of a no-buy, if you're about to start one, if you want to start one, or you're about to end it. Either way, here are some things that help me get through my no-buy, even though I did really want to buy something sometimes. My first tip would be find a community to talk about your passion for makeup and wanting to buy it. Either talk to your friends and family about it if you don't have anyone who's interested in makeup. For instance, I don't have any friends or family who like makeup as much as I do, so I kind of felt lonely, honestly, a lot of the time. I wish that I had more people to talk to about it. So watching YouTubers and creators sharing their passion for makeup and watching people who are also on no-buys really helped me, even though I can't physically see them. Still knowing there are other people out there who like what I like and who feel these feelings as well really helped me. One of the reasons why I started this channel was because I was feeling lonely and I wanted to talk about someone, so having some people to talk about makeup with has really helped me through my no-buy and just with my makeup interests in general. My second tip would be find ways to have fun with old makeup and not constantly buying new stuff. For instance, find ways to use items in different ways than normal, such as trying lipsticks as blushes or trying eyeshadows in your brows. Just something fun, something different, trying to find ways that to look at your makeup items that you already have in a fresh perspective. I often did Frankens of eyeshadows. I'm not sure who first coined the term of the Franken beauty product or the Franken eyeshadows, but it's when you take some of one eyeshadow, take another one, you mix them together, you repress them with isopropyl alcohol, and boom, you made a new color. Basically like mixing paints, but in this case with powders. You can do it with basically any makeup product. You can do it with lipsticks, with blushes, whatever you want, whatever you are willing to Franken. If you have empty pans, then that can really help. I made my own magnetic palette in several occasions, and it just really helped me to be creative, especially because I wanted different eyeshadow colors, so I created new ones out of the eyeshadow colors I already had, and in most cases out of colors that I didn't particularly like or wear all that often. So I found ways to turn the eyeshadows I don't like that much into an eyeshadow that I do like, so that was really fun. Something that I did was make videos on YouTube because I found it more fun to share my love of makeup with the world. Another way to have fun with old makeup is to try new ways to apply it, such as new eyeshadow placements like the sunset eye, the halo eye, anything that you don't normally do. Just try new pairings of colors, new placements of colors, just looking at your eyeshadows in a new light and how many possibilities you have already without buying anything new. Now my third tip would be to make goals. Obviously, one goal would be set a date when you ending your no-buy or when you allowing yourself to buy at least one thing. I follow one person, her name is Jessica, and I can't remember her last name, but she is doing a Project 50 pan when she finishes 50 items in the categories that she doesn't just use up really quickly, such as mascara or foundation. Once she uses 50 items, she is allowing herself to buy one item that isn't essential, like a lipstick or an eyeshadow. And I thought that was a really creative way, as well as just it works for her. Also setting money goals, such as how much money do you want to use up in makeup, or how much money do you want to save compared to the last year. Also setting usage goals. In the case of you want your makeup to be a certain amount in each category, like you want to get your makeup down to 15 lipsticks and 10 blushes or something like that. If you are a project panner, then I would say project panning is a really good way to help you through your no-buy because it's something to focus on. It's something to motivate you to get you through. Now, my last tip is something that I think is really helpful, and I'm so glad I did. It is make a wish list. Oh my goodness. It really shows you what you are attracted to, and it reveals just like everything about your tendencies and how wrapped up you can be with something, and then realize that it doesn't actually matter in the end. Anyways, you can definitely spot trends and repeat items if you always put a picture of what you want in your wish list. I have an iPhone, so I made a album of all the pictures of things on my wish list, and I organized them. Like, there was eyeshadows, and then there was blushes and highlights and lip glosses, lipsticks. Like, I had categories so then I could put them side by side, and then I'd realize, oh, these two things, like the same eyeshadow palette, I get to choose one. Which one do I like better? Which one should I keep on my wish list? Because I can't argue my way into getting both of these when they're basically the same. So it definitely made me realize what I find myself drawn to and what I truly do like. Another thing that I mentioned earlier is that you really get to see how long something lasts in a wish list. Might be a couple days, might be a couple weeks, might be a couple months, but then what if you stop getting attracted to it? What does that say about your preferences and how you view items similar to it in the future? Also, looking at swatches and reviews. I cannot emphasize this enough, because while you might be drawn to the picture, look at videos of people reviewing it. Do you still like it in that lighting? Did you see the swatches? Do you like the swatches? If they're lipsticks, find someone who's swatching it. Would it look good on you, or do you like the aspect of it? Just researching, is it a good formula? Is it kind of half the people like it, half the people don't? Keep these things in mind when you compare two items that might be similar. Which one has better reviews? Which one is cheaper? Just, I feel like doing research so that once you can buy something, then you will know that you have a better chance of not wasting your money. This video is already probably way too long, and can't wait to edit it. Oh my goodness. Please let me know if you are a no-buy, if you're thinking of doing a no-buy, or if you have done a no-buy in the past. I would love to hear your thoughts about it and your experiences. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Bye!